Or run down the starting lineup for the Eagles.
Batting first for the Eagles will be Randy Pinkerman at shortstop. Batting second is Jesse Simons, the pitcher. Batting third is Danny Barrowman, the center fielder. Batting fourth is Aaron Boyle, the first baseman. Batting fourth is Tony Hammock, the designated player. Batting fifth is Aaron Boyle for first baseman. Batting sixth is Carly Passaggio, the catcher. Batting seventh is Shelby Heiser, the third baseman. Batting eighth is Marissa Miles out in right field, and Jean Zach out in left.
Thanks, Cody. And Madison comes to bat here in the top of the first. They are the 7th seed in the tournament. Their first hitter is Alexis Milan, like the city in Italy. She is the second baseman. Then Lopez, the center fielder, Beely, the third baseman, and Hendren, the catcher, will run the rest of the lineup down as we go along, as Simons' first pitch is fouled off for strike one. Not a lot of turnover time here as the field crew got the playing surface ready to go very quickly, and we were scrambling to write in lineups and get defensive cards filled out.
Foul ball down the first baseline. Brings the count to 0-2.
As these two teams have met once on the season before, O'Neill beat Madison on the 4th of September, 11-3. In a game that was played in Madison.
That is inside, high and inside for ball one.
Jessie Simons, the pitcher, she is a junior at St. Mary's, hard-throwing right-hander who's taken over for Rachel Price, who was a 4-year starter for the Eagles during her career.
And there's also another foul ball down the first baseline.
Bounced off the plate as O'Neill is 12-2 on the season. The Eagles have not lost since August, as they've really been on a roll as of late.
And that is called strike three.
So Milan gone looking for out number one, and here's Lorena Lopez, the center fielder. Madison 1-17 on the season, a win over Lincoln High. Typically they play a very good schedule. Eagles have seen some tough opponents too, as that's strike one to Lopez. O'Neill's last loss, a 6-5 setback at Wayne on the 21st of August.
That's just inside for ball one.
Since that time, O'Neill has ran off 12 straight victories. Most recently, winning a triangular over Lutheran High, Northeast, and Pierce last week.
That is also inside brings the count to 2-1.
Taylor Beely waits in the on-deck circle for the Dragons. And then Jaden Henderson, if somebody would reach base.
Swung on and missed for strike three.
So Lopez gone, swinging for out number two. And here's Taylor Beely, the third baseman. And as oftentimes the case, phonics out the window when you're pronouncing last names. And I want to thank the Madison Dragons. They were very cordial over there and very patient with me as they were going over the pronunciations of their names, wanting to make sure I got those all correct, and I hope I am. Second pitch was high to Beely, 1-1 with Jaden Hendren waiting on deck. And in my haste, sometimes I forget to check the pronunciations of the first names, and that's something I've slowly learned to do over the years.
And it'll bring the count to 1-2.
Beely is the third baseman. 2 out, nobody aboard here. Top half of inning number 1.
Simon strikes out the side to start the game off.
No runs, no hits. There were no errors, and nobody left for Madison. So after a half inning of play, It is Madison 0 and O'Neill coming to bat. Let's set that Madison defense for you. The third baseman is Taylor Bealey, Elena Kellen at short, Alexis Milan at second, and Danielle Mavis at first. In the outfield, Brenda Rios in left, Lorena Lopez in center, and Yoselin Silva in right, and a battery made up of catcher Jaden Hendren and pitcher Kelsey Sako. And they were helping me out over there in the dugout with Sako's name. It's actually spelled Sojka, like we would say Soika here in O'Neill, but they told me, no, it's just like the watch. Think Sako. Mavis, spelled Mewis, but they told me it was Mavis. So again, thanks to those Madison coaches and players for being very helpful and very patient with me as I tried to run down those pronunciations. And I certainly apologize if I do get any of those wrong. That is purely unintentional. They were having a lot of fun over there in the dugout, and I think approaching this one with just saying, the pressure's really maybe on O'Neill in this one, as they are the 2 seed in the tournament. And Madison, they appeared confident but loose over there in their first base dugout as the Madison pitcher Kelsey Sako finishes her warm-up tosses. Once again, glad to have you on Eagle Eye Sports, a portion of Eagles on Air, as you view this as a webcast courtesy of Ustream. Big thanks to Mike Peterson, our technician. He's the computer operator, also handling the texts and operating the camera here. Just off to our right, I'm Gary Hostert with O'Neill High School senior Cody Belzer for this contest.
And it brings up the shortstop for O'Neill, Randy Pinkerman. She takes ball 1.
Pinkerman, one of several of these O'Neill players who played on summer state championship teams or teams that advanced deep into state tournament play this summer.
Fouled out of play, brings the count to 1-1.
In Pinkerman's case, she was a member of the Mean Green team that won their state tournament in Class C at South Sioux City.
Low and inside for ball 2.
She is a sprinter on the track team, and that's part of the reason why I think she's in that leadoff spot. She gets on base. She is a definite threat to steal. Did get some fans from Albion listening in and viewing on Ustream. Glad to bring that to you, as the Albion Boone Central Cardinals came up a little bit short as their rally fell short, losing to Pierce by a score of 9-7. But that was quite a ball game.
Right up the middle.
Pinkerman gets it started for the Eagles with a sharp single up the middle. And thanks to all those people who are viewing this on Ustream, we're glad to bring it to you. If you can't be here at the ballpark, glad to have you tuning in.
Brings up the pitcher, Jesse Simons for O'Neill.
Simons throws right but bats left. Again, like Pinkerman, she has excellent speed.
And Pinkerman steals second. Now she's going to take, nope. Definite look at third. Pinkerman steals third.
And right away we see that speed of Pinkerman's that we alluded to.
Count 2-1 on Simons.
And she hits a ball out to left field, and it's fair, which will score Randy Pinkerman.
And Simons could not have went out there and dropped that one any better. Good example of hitting the ball where it's pitched, as she took that one the other way, and it landed, Cody, probably just about 6 inches or so inside the foul line.
Brings up the center fielder, Danny Barrowman.
And it looks like we'll get a courtesy runner for the Eagles, and I believe that's Libby Slack. Looks like Slack will run for the pitcher Simons, as Monty Grosnickloss and Chuck Price, the coaches for the Eagles, want to try to save the legs of Simons. Of course, chance that the Eagles could be playing multiple games here over the next couple of days.
Slack on the run. Safe at second.
She was another member of that Mean Green team that won state at South Sioux this summer. Her father, Chris, watching in Seward, I think was one of the coaches on that team.
Low for ball one to Danny Barrowman. Count 1-1.
Barrowman is the right-handed batting center fielder, a one-time infielder.
Axe that one out of play.
She is a senior. Barrowman, her 18 and under team, won the state tournament in Hastings this past July.
That is outside for ball number 2.
As those two O'Neill teams, the Mean Green and the Fighting Irish, they actually...
And Barrowman up to first, is out at first, but advanced the runner to third.
They claimed those titles on the same day. Or were they the Shamrocks, I believe.
Yep.
Shamrocks were the 18s and the Mean Green, the team that won in South Sioux City. They were the 14s. The 16 and under O'Neill Green Machine, they played in Class B and got third at Lexington.
Yep. Now Hammock up to the plate, and that is foul ball.
There was a Fighting Irish team, but they were a 12 and under team. And I'll tell you what, trying to keep track of all of those softball teams in the age brackets, when they all deal with Irish and the color green, that can keep your head spinning, that's for sure. 0-1 to Hammock, who has some power.
Outside for ball one, brings the count to 1-1 with Slack at third.
O'Neill leads it here 1-0, bottom half of inning number 1.
And that's up the middle for a base hit, which will score Libby Slack.
So an RBI single there, just what the Eagles wanted out of their cleanup hitter, Tony Hammock. And now running for her. Or they're going to send her back, I guess. She's not. I think they were thinking, O'Neill was thinking that Hammock is oftentimes she is the catcher, and Paula Zach came out of the dugout, but then Coach Monty Grosnickloss over at first reminded them that Hammock is the designated player today, and so instead coming on to run is going to be Ariana Dugan. Ariana Dugan, the sophomore infielder / catcher. She'll run now for Tony Hammock. And I think perhaps we would see Zach run maybe for Passaggio. This is Aaron Boyle now batting with 2 runs in for O'Neill and a runner at first with 1 out.
And stole second and going to third.
So a stolen base and then an error on the throw will put the courtesy runner, Dugan, at third base. And softball definitely affords you the possibility, the chance to get a lot of different players in the ballgame. Aaron Boyle, junior at St. Mary's. She was a member of that Green Machine team that placed third in Class B down at Lexington. They actually qualified for national competition, but elected not to attend because of the fact that it was so close to the start of the fall season. Showed bunt and took it for a called strike 1. 3-1 now to Boyle, who is a 4-sport athlete, as many of these players are.
That is chopped to short, And she's going to make it no throw.
That'll be an infield single for Boyle, as there was no misplay on
Scores
that.
Ariana Dugan.
And that'll make it 3-0. So credit Boyle with an RBI. She's at first for Carly Basagio, the catcher. Basagio started her career in the outfield, but this year splits time behind the plate with Tony Hammock.
Boyle steals second.
As Aaron Boyle is in standing up, it is a 1-0 count to Carly Basagio, 3-0 O'Neill. Shelby Heiser waiting on deck. A little bit later on, during the 6 o'clock hour, should be joined by Sarah Duvall for that broadcast, and then Lindsay Appleby during our 8 o'clock broadcast tonight.
That's called strike one. Brings the count to 2-1 to Carly Pasagio.
So that one caught the inside corner. Good pitch there from Seiko.
Outside. Oh, called strike two. Brings the count to 2-2. It's line out of play.
And we'll try to keep tabs as Dennis Cork is keeping the scoreboard over on field number 1 in that Guardian Angels Lutheran High game. He tells us there's no score with that game in the second inning between Guardian Angels and Lutheran High Northeast.
Out of play, foul ball. Keeps the count 2-2 to Carly Pasagio. That's line to the second. Oh.
Milan couldn't quite handle that one, and that one's going to go into the gap. It'll be an error that allows Boyle to score, and Carly Basagio on board via the E4. And now we're going to see a runner for Basagio, and you can't help but think that that might be Zach. Although, no, they're going to leave her out there. They were signaling that way, but they're going to leave Basagio out there. She's going to run for herself.
And I'll bring up Shelby Heiser. Outside for ball one.
Heiser, right-handed batting, third baseman. Another one of those mean green summer players. She's a sophomore.
Low and inside for ball two.
As Randy Pinkerman and Heiser have taken over the left side of the infield this year for graduated seniors Kelsey Ross and Desi Pinkerman.
That's lined out to right field over the right fielder off the fence.
It hit the base of the fence.
She's going to third. That'll be a standing up triple.
Boy, Heiser jumped all over that one. Good short, compact swing, and she hit the base of the fence. That'll be the first triple of this mid-state tournament. And it plates Basagio, and it's 4-0 O'Neill. And here's Marissa Miles, the left fielder. She's the third St. Mary's player in the starting lineup today for O'Neill's. This is a co-op between O'Neill High School and O'Neill St. Mary's. And the hitter behind her, Jean Zach, also attends St. Mary's. So 0-2 to Marissa Miles, another player with some speed. She takes a look at Chuck Price in the third base coaching box. Monty Grosniklas is over at first. Still just one out, and O'Neill has plated 5 runs.
Brings the count to 0-2 with one out and Heiser at third. Outside for ball one.
After 2 complete in that Lutheran High Guardian Angel Central Catholic game, 0-0. No score over there on field 1. Thanks to Dennis Cork for keeping us up to date on what's going on over there. Another guy who, like you, Cody Belzer, is wearing many hats today.
And that'll be strike three. Called on swing and miss for strike three from Mercer Miles. Brings up Gene Zach.
Gene Zach, the right fielder. A runner at third now and 2 outs. As Kelsey Seiko records her first strikeout. Outside for ball 1 to Zach. And you're probably noticing, strike 1 to Zach. I beg your pardon there. Now outside for a ball, as you probably noticed that the catcher, Hendren for Madison, something you don't see every day, left-handed catcher.
Yep.
A little more common in softball, I think, than in baseball. And partly because you see a few more left-handed batters oftentimes in softball than you do in baseball.
It's chopped to third, and that will score Shelby Heiser.
As Zach will reach on the error. And Heiser comes home with the 6th run of the ball game, 6-0 now. O'Neill leading Madison here in the the bottom half of inning number 1.
Zach will still second.
Here's Pinkerman up there with a 1-ball count. The scoreboards here at Kearney Park, they have a remote capability, and actually the person operating the scoreboard for this game is actually down in the bleachers. Strike 1 to Pinkerman, 1-1 now to Pinkerman, who singled and scored back earlier in this inning. So she's 1 for 1.
That's the line, past shortstop.
That'll be through
Pinkerman with her second hit of the inning.
That'll be a base hit as Zach scored easily on that one. Yes, a good point you make, Cody. A 2-hit inning for Pinkerman. Oftentimes the leadoff hitters don't get a lot of RBI opportunities, but Pinkerman did just that a moment ago. And she advances to second on that play. Here's Jesse Simons, the pitcher. Simons drove in Pinkerman with a single earlier in this inning. 7-0 O'Neill, bottom of the first.
That's right up the middle for a base hit for Jesse Simons. Will score Randy Pinkerman.
So the Eagles have come out hitting the softball early in this one. Simons, her second run batted in of this top of the first, and now Slack will come back in and run for Jesse Simons. That's one concern you have as a coach, is that you like the long inning when your team's scoring runs, but you also have to factor in your pitcher is over there in the dugout, and you don't want them to get cold.
Slack on the run, steal second.
Libby Slack in there standing up, and a ball 1 count on Danny Barrelman, one of the seniors on this year's O'Neill squad.
Swung on and missed by Barrelman. Slack on the run, trying to steal, and she is safe.
As the third baseman, Bealey, had a chance there, but just didn't quite get the tag down in time. The throw was there in time, or so it appeared. O'Neill, 14-2 on the season.
Brings the count to 1-1 to Barrelman. That's a little high. Brings the count to 2-1 to Barrelman. That is line for another base hit for the Eagles, which will score Slack.
So Danny Barrelman with a run-scoring single. And the inning continues for the Eagles, who now lead it by a score of 9-0. And here is pinch hitter Ariana Dugan batting for Hammock in the 4 spot. She ran for her earlier in the inning. Chris Slack cheering the Eagles on from Seward. Glad to have you aboard, wherever you might be, for this Ustream broadcast on Eagle Eye Sports.
Digging it to pop up to second, which is dropped.
And Barrelman
scores.
She's a trackster in the spring, and she was, like your coach to do, run on contact with 2 outs. That's just what she did, and she wheels all the way around and scores on what will go as an E4. Here's another pinch hitter for O'Neill, and Cody, that may be Ariel Lichty.
Yeah.
Okay, Ariel Lichty, who provided a big hit for O'Neill in last week's win over Lutheran High Northeast. Lichty batting for Aaron Boyle. Lichty, yet another one of those mean green players. 0-1 as she fouls his first one back. Pasagio on deck. She has the shin guards on over there. Not literally in the on-deck circle, but figuratively so.
And that is line for another base hit for the Eagles.
And that'll be a base hit for Ariel
around
Lichty.
it. Gets back safe.
She did take a big turn there, and Cody, thanks for keeping an eye on that. Now they're calling Pasagio back. And so another pinch hitter. This may be Zach.
Yep.
Yeah, Paula Zach, the freshman. She'll hit for Pasagio. Wholesale substitutions for the Eagles, who lead this one 10-0 here, bottom of the first. Seiko. This pitch is outside for ball 1. 1-0 to Paula Zach. Outside for ball 2 to Zach. Shelby Heiser waiting in the on-deck circle.
That's hit the second. She's out at first.
Nice
Which will
play
end
there.
the first inning.
Nice play by Alexis Milan, the second baseman. A 4-3 put out for out number 3. But the Eagles come up with 10 runs in that bottom half of the first on 7 hits. There were 4 errors and also a couple runners left on base. So after one complete inning of play, your score, it is O'Neill 10 and Madison 0. Due up for Madison in the top of the second. Hendren, Arbuthnot, and Seiko to face O'Neill's Jesse Simons. Once again, thanks to Telebeep Wireless, Norfolk and O'Neill, Rick and Tom Schomer for putting in the wireless internet signal that we're using to broadcast, webcast these softball games from the 2012 Mid-State Conference Tournament. Say a big thank you to those folks when you see them. Also, thanks goes out to Mike Peterson, our technician here just off to our right, who is the mastermind behind our Ustream broadcasts. We'll have several other O'Neill High School students, as well as Cody Belzer, helping bring these games. We'll hear from Sarah Duvall and Lindsay Appleby a little bit later on tonight. And here's Jaden Hendren, the left-handed batting catcher. No score in our game on Field 1 between Guardian Angels and Lutheran High.
High for ball 1.
I feel safe in saying, at least of the pitchers we've seen thus far on this field in this tournament, you'd have to say Simons is the hardest thrower we've seen here.
Yep.
Of course, we have not seen all the teams. But Simons definitely, she's added some velocity. She was an infielder on last year's team, I believe, and has now moved into the pitching circle as Rachel Price has graduated. Last year's mid-state tournament was played at Boone Central in Albion.
Brings the count to 2-2.
With Ashley Arbuthnot, the 5-hitter, waiting on deck. She's a designated player.
And that will be Simon's 4th strikeout.
As Simons has not allowed a runner to reach base, and in fact, all 4 outs she has recorded have been strikeouts. And here's Arbuthnot, the designated player. Right-handed batter with Seiko waiting on deck. Still no score over there. After 3 complete. Excuse me, Cody.
No, go ahead.
Strike 1, you said, to Arbuthnot, and no score on field 1 after 3 complete between Guardian Angels and Lutheran High.
Fouled off. Brings the count to 0-2.
A chance later on we could see Emily Pribnow, the pitcher for Guardian Angels. She is a hard thrower, although she's been bothered by some injuries this year.
High for ball 1. Brings the count to 1-2.
Although I have not seen either Lutheran High or Guardian Angels play on this season. Lutheran High, a team that was hit hard by graduation a year ago.
Inside for ball 2. Count is even, 2-2. Cut on miss for Jesse Simon's 5th strikeout now.
5 in a row for Simons, and here's Kelsey Seiko, the pitcher. Madison, as you see, they have the red jerseys with the gray pants and the red socks. The Dragons, these 2 schools, O'Neill and Madison, will meet up in high school football in Madison on Friday night. And we're dubbing that the Tiger Bowl because, of course, it's a battle of former Ewing high school football coaches, Jim Crilly for the Dragons and Brock Eichelberger for the Eagles.
That is fouled out of play. Count remains 0-2.
As we expected, a good crowd on hand here for this one, with O'Neill being the host team. And, of course, I think if O'Neill would happen to, well, either way, if O'Neill wins or loses, they would play later on tonight, and I think you'll see an even bigger crowd for that.
And Simon strikes out the side again for the 2nd time in a row.
So Jesse Simon starts the game with 6 straight strikeouts, and after an inning and a half of play, your score, it is O'Neill 10 and Madison 0. Due up for O'Neill in the bottom of the 2nd, Heiser, Miles, and Zach.
Looks like Rena Jacobowski will be pitching for Shelby.
Right in. Brianna Jacobowski is O'Neill, I believe, has about 18 players on the roster. We'll run them down for you. Libby Slack, Carla Visagio, Danny Barrow, Sierra Parks, Alex Atkins, Jesse Simons, Shelby Heiser, Paula Zach, Aaron Boyle, Michaela Mosel, Ariel Lichty, Marissa Miles, Brianna Jacobowski, Jean Zach, Courtney Wheeler, Ariana Dugan, Crystal Fonseca, and Tony Hammock. For Madison, player roster: Elena Kellen, Alexis Milan, Maria Torres, Taylor Beely, Lorena Lopez, Yoselin Silva, Macaria Torres, Danielle Mavis, Brenda Rijos, Ashley Arbuthnot, Jaden Hendren, Emily Edelman, Lisette Teo and Kelsey Seiko. And Lisette Teo, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, as that's one name I did not check beforehand. Here's Brianna Jacobowski. Jacobowski, a junior. Pinch hitting here in the 7 spot for Heiser. Heiser, 1 for 1 in this game, a triple and a run scored.
Jacobowski takes strike 1.
Heiser also drove in a run back in the first. Kelsey Seiko, the pitcher for Madison, enters her second inning of work. And that hit Jacobowski. So Jacobowski gets the free pass, and here's Marissa Miles. And that indeed is Miles. She'll stay in the game. She's the starting left fielder. Still no score over there between Lutheran High and Guardian Angels. They're in the 4th. Called strike 1 to Miles.
Low for ball 1.
1-1 to Miles with Jean Zach waiting in the on-deck circle. One player we haven't mentioned yet for the Eagles, Alex Atkins. She's the defensive player playing second base. We have a grandpa watching from way out in the Panhandle in Scotts Bluff, Nebraska, and I think Mike Peterson may be privy to who that might be exactly. So glad to have you aboard out in the Panhandle. As Scotts Bluff, they have another great sports season going this fall.
That's chopped to third. Miles is safe at first, which will bring up Gene Zach.
Hit hard will give Miles an infield single with that as on the play. Or excuse me, it gives Zach the infield, or Miles the infield single. That moves Jacobowski to third, I beg your pardon. Here's Gene Zach.
Lined up the middle for a base hit, which will score Brianna Jacobowski.
So you give Gene Zach that run batted in. It's now 11-0 O'Neill with runners on first and second and still nobody out for Libby Slack, who's going to be hitting for Randy Pinkerman. So Libby Slack, the freshman, up there with her father watching in Seward. Seiko has her sign.
Ball 1 outside to Libby Slack. Runners at second and first. Called strike 1 to Libby Slack.
A little bit later on tonight at 6 o'clock.
That's a pass shortstop for a base hit, which will score 1 run for the Eagles. Scores Marissa Miles.
Libby Slack gets credit for that run batted in. And Zach goes to third, and Slack now at second base as she went there on the throw. And here's another pinch hitter for O'Neill, and that would be Courtney Wheeler, I believe. So Wheeler to bat for Simons. Set at 6 o'clock here on field 2. We'll have Wayne against Pierce.
Called strike 1 to Wheeler.
Courtney Wheeler, a freshman. And indeed, Chris Slack still is watching there in Seward. I figured he might be cheering on the O'Neill Eagles.
Swung on and missed for strike 2.
So we've had viewers from all over the state thus far today, from Albion, also Scotts Bluff, Seward, Nebraska, and here in O'Neill, and points in between.
Swung on and missed for the first out for the Eagles.
For the pitcher, Seiko, that's her second strikeout. And here is another hitter. This is Fonseca, I believe, for O'Neill. Crystal Fonseca hitting for Barrelman in the 3 spot. Fonseca, another one of those O'Neill freshmen. Runners on second and third. O'Neill leads it 12-0. We're in the bottom half of inning number 2. And still no score between Guardian Angels and Lutheran High Northeast over on field 1. This pitch to Fonseca a bit wide.
Brings the count to 2-0.
With Ariana Dugan waiting in the on-deck circle. And scoreless now, we learn from Dennis Cork on field 1 after 4 complete. Quite a battle shaping up over there between Lutheran High Northeast and Guardian Angels Central Catholic.
Ball 3 to Fonseca brings the count to 3-1.
Guardian Angels, the 3 seed, they were 8-6 at seeding time.
Called strike 2 brings the count to full count.
And Lutheran High Northeast, they were 4-8. They're 4-10 right now. They're the 6th seed. Wayne now has arrived here at Kearney Park. They're the 1 seed in this tournament. They're the most storied program among mid-state conference softball teams. We'll talk about that later on as they play their game.
Swung on and missed for strike 3.
As Wayne plays their game at 6 o'clock. And now yet another pinch hitter for O'Neill. This is Alex Atkins, who was the defensive specialist. Megan Boyle watching her sister Erin from Sioux Falls. Says, go Eagles. Yes, thanks, Megan, for tuning in. And a very good start here for the O'Neill Eagles as they lead it 12-0 here in the bottom half of the second. So here is Alex Atkins as she becomes the 3rd player to bat in the 4 spot for O'Neill after Hammock and Dugan.
Called on for strike 1. Swung and missed for strike 2.
So we hear from our first South Dakota listener today. Welcome aboard wherever you might be.
Atkins is safe at first, and now bring in 2 more runs for the Eagles.
Boy, and a tough break there for Madison as that ball was fielded nicely at third by Bealey, and she made the throw across to Mavis, who just couldn't quite hold on. That makes it now 14-0 in favor of O'Neill.
Brings up Ariel Lichty, the first baseman.
Lichty singled in her first plate appearance today.
Inside for ball 1, and Atkins will take second.
Happy Constitution Day to everyone.
Lichty to third, and that will be the end of the second inning.
So she's out 5-3 as you go back to September. Cody, you knew this, September 17th, 1787.
Yep.
And we celebrate Constitution Day today. I guess we're exercising our right to free speech. So the Eagles retired in the second as O'Neill picks up 4 runs on three hits. There was 1 error. And nobody left on base. So after 2 complete, your score O'Neill 14 and Madison 0. Due up for Madison in the top of the third, Mavis Rios, and Kellen. As Jessie Simons, she has re-entered the game, and she will continue to pitch. Now it looks like over at first, Lichty has replaced Boyle over there at first. And Pinkerman is at short. Heiser is still at third. She's re-entered the game. Sierra Park, she is now the second baseman. And Cody, your 18-year-old eyes are a lot better than mine as we'll try to figure out those outfielders.
Barrelman's out at center, and left field is Michaela Mosel, it looks like.
Okay, good call. As for Madison, they're going to send up Mavis, the 7-hitter, Rios, the 8-hitter, and Kellen, the 9-hitter. Also, viewers in Gordon, Nebraska, out in what used to be my neck of the woods when I was at college in Chadron. So I know some folks from Gordon. Glad to have you aboard. And in the 5th now, still scoreless over there between Lutheran High and Guardian Angels Central Catholic, as Jessie Simons finishes her warm-up tosses. Top of the 3rd, 14-0, O'Neill. Simons talking with shortstop Randy Pinkerman for a few moments. And it does look like Basagio is back behind the plate after the Eagles pinch hit for her. She is back in the game. Basagio now a senior at St. Mary's. As we have watched her play a lot of softball over the years in this O'Neill program. And now the umpires, of course, with all these changes, they're getting all that straight with the coaches from both sides. We're just about ready for action here in the 3rd inning. Again, glad to have you aboard on the O'Neill High School website via Ustream. Say a big thanks to Telebeat Wireless for providing our internet signal. This one's line foul out of play by Danielle Mavis, the first baseman. Madison talked about how they will
Foul tip for strike number 2.
play in a district tournament with several other mid-state conference teams. Also have folks right here in O'Neill listening at the central office. Now, no doubt they are continuing to work hard as well here as they're getting a little overtime. Glad to have you aboard wherever you might be.
Strike 3.
So Mavis out on strikes for out number 1, and now Simons has struck out all 7 batters she's faced thus far in this one. Madison, they're in the C4 district with Boone Central and Pearson Wayne, among others. That'll be played at Wisner. This one is swung on and missed by Brenda Rios, the 8-hitter. She's the left fielder.
Swung on and missed for strike number 2.
Elena Kellen waiting on deck.
Strike number 3.
And down swinging is Rios for out number 2. And here's Elena Kellen. The flex player for Madison is Yoselin Silva. She is the right fielder. She was kidding me before the game when I was going through the pronunciations. That's one that I knew, and I was telling her that I'm a big Minnesota Twins fan. Of course, they used to have the pitcher Carlos Silva on their team. But she wanted to make sure that I had that one correct, so thanks a lot to her.
Swung on and missed for strike number 2.
0-2 to Kellen as Simons a strike away from recording 9 in a row, and there it is as Jesse Simons is perfect through 3. No runs, no hits, and no errors for Madison. And Simons says perfect, a perfect game, as Simons faced 9 and struck out 9, and O'Neill gets the 15-0 win over Madison in opening round action here in this mid-state tournament. For O'Neill, they got those 15 runs. On 10 hits. They did not commit an error and left 2 runners on base. Madison unable to get any runs across. No runs, no hits. Madison did commit 5 errors and no runners left on base. So Jesse Simons gets the perfect game victory, and Kelsey Sako suffers the loss for Madison. So O'Neill wins it here in first-round action, and that means that the Eagles will advance to play the winner of that Guardian Angels Lutheran High Northeast game. And right now, that's quite a battle going on over there in the 6th inning, as there is still no score. We'll keep an eye on that for you. And Madison will play as the Dragons were the loser of Game 2. And so that means they will play against the loser of that Guardian Angels Lutheran High Northeast game. Again, quite a battle going on over there between Guardian Angels and Lutheran High, and we'll keep an eye on that and let you know how that one comes out. But for now, our next action will be at around 6 o'clock with Wayne taking on Pierce. 5:50. They're going to start. We just learned from Mike Peterson, thank you, that they'll play that game at 5:50 now. So if you're watching and cheering on the Wayne Blue Devils or the Pierce Blue Jays, we're going to play that game at 5:50 tonight here at Field 2 Kearney Park. We'll be back in a little while. So long for now.